It's time for the Situation Podcast with Brother Z and Antone. Welcome back to part 2 of the Situation Podcast. I remember going into my stereo shop and I wanted to get a Blu-ray player. But then, of course, you had home theatre. So you've got to get the surround sound and you've got to get the driver, the woofer. What's the bass thing called that they use in home theatre?
Amp?
Yeah, but what's the bass speaker called?
Subwoofer. Subwoofer.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, the DVD gave you better quality.
Yeah.
But it gave you another reason not to go to the cinema.
True, because the first show I remember I binge watched was
What's binging?
that's another point.
What's the Situation Podcast definition of binging?
Binge watch is something that I started doing in 2006. The first show I binge watched was 24 with Kiefer Sutherland.
Never seen it.
You should watch it. Actually, that was the first show I watched, and I think many of you guys have seen this show. That was the first show I binge watched, and I loved it. And we spent hours and hours and days just finishing season 1, season 2. You had the luxury to do that, and that was binge watching.
Yeah. But when you binge, for me, this is all now we're jumping forward into the streaming services. When you could actually have a streaming service. I still remember fondly, back in Australia, we had a thing called Foxtel, and it came on cable, and you had the cable box, and with the cable box, you had to have the cable box plugged into your TV, and it wasn't streamed over the Wi-Fi. It was you had to have the cable, so the actual stream came with the cable. So back then, you had to subscribe and pay. It was whatever it was, 60 Australian dollars to watch this. And you couldn't binge because their hook was next week we find out blah. And they still use the same technique that they used in traditional TV.
Which I actually personally prefer. But whatever you mentioned now, which is the whole concept of you watch an episode, then you have to wait a week. Which is funny enough, before jumping to what they're doing now, they went back to that recently. Some shows they do prefer to one episode and then the next week they air the second episode. Do you see value in that?
I see value in tying a viewer to the series and wanting to know what the answer is. One thing that these TV services give you the ability to, you can fast forward to the end. If you're watching a movie, you can go all the way to the end and see the ending, which I don't like. We'll talk about filmmaking in another Situation Podcast very soon. But for me, binging Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, Series 4, and coming up in Series 5, that's all part of the hook, I think. So for me, I'm happy with it.
And the fact that basically now you can watch anything, anytime, at any platform. You can watch it on TV. TV is no longer... It's a shame, to be honest, because now you can see that many people are not even going to the cinema.
Well, how has it affected? Movie releases now.
It changed the whole strategy.
How many movies go straight to a streaming platform?
Many of them, if not most of them. And it's a shame because like many movies now, just recently in the past year, are trying to go to cinemas first and then go to the streaming platform. Because for me personally, I still prefer the cinema.
Okay, we're going to cut down to a couple of things. The worst binge you've had. When you got to the end. The worst one. Question without notice, live here on the Situation Podcast.
Very tricky. One disappointing one could be Dexter, the last season.
What's that one with that's just been on? Jodie Foster. What's that one? That one.
That's a bad one.
Those guys that are
True Detective.
and they're still frozen in
Yeah.
the basketball hall waiting
Yeah.
to defrost.
Yeah, but actually, that was one of the shows that they did the whole one episode per week
One per
thing.
week, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I liked that, but eventually it was such a shame.
So let me ask you one more question.
Yeah.
I know you've got a couple there for me, but if you were to sum up streaming, good, bad,
I mean, definitely it's good. You cannot say it's not.
yeah, it's brilliant, I reckon.
I mean, it's allowed us to just like access content, but at the same time, I reached the level now that personally I'm a bit bored with how content is being presented. For example, you go onto Netflix, you can't even find a good show. For me, you know, streaming platforms specifically like Netflix, they've been going on to quantity, sorry, versus quality.
I don't have Netflix anymore.
I don't have it anymore.
Because if you spend 10 minutes searching,
Yeah.
Plus I love the classic movies, and I also I love a good narrative. I was just watching, I've been watching these classic movies recently, and even some of the newer stuff. I know with, what's that movie, Greyhound, that Tom Hanks went straight to Apple. Apple. And that was one that was going to be at the cinema, which I was looking forward to seeing, but it went straight there. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the amount of content that's out there is almost, in a way, like you said, it's quantity over the quality.
It is. And are you still watching movies in the cinema?
Well, only when you invite me.
100%. I mean, I watched Barbie, which was a good film.
Yeah,
Oppenheimer, which was good.
I think the last movie I saw was the Harrison Ford Indiana Jones,
That was not bad. That was
Yeah.
actually not bad.
which I enjoyed.
Mission Impossible, I wasn't a big fan of. It was a bit disappointing. Where, you know, at the moment,
I watched that on the plane,
yeah,
which
yeah. I mean, the moment I saw a train sequence, I was like, and there's people jumping on a train. That was a disappointment.
Let's just pause for a moment. What is this? The Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Every Mission Impossible, they run on the roof of the train.
Yeah, I
What-
mean, I love Tom Cruise, by the way.
Nothing.
Yeah.
We all love him,
Yeah,
and he's getting younger by the day.
yeah.
But
But this whole
the
train
running on the
situation,
roof of the train, like James Bond does it. Who is the new Bond? Who's going to be the new Bond?
It could be the guy.
So it's not going to be a woman.
No, I don't think so. It's gonna be that guy from the Brad Pitt film, Train something. Bullet Train.
Oh yeah,
Bullet Train. I think it might be that guy.
that's a remake.
I like that
You
guy,
know that
actually.
Bullet Train.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a
it is, it
remake.
is.
Yeah.
But I mean, did you notice that? I mean, all the films that have been produced recently, and you see them on the networks and on the streaming platforms, they no longer focus on the storyline.
Well, narrative is not king anymore.
Yeah, which
I
is a
mean,
shame.
Action adventure. Budgets. I mean, like, we've got a pod coming on movies, so let's do that. And one of the things we're going to be doing on the Situation podcast is we're going to take a particular movie and break it down. So I'm looking forward to that. And just before, because I know we're about to wind up here, Brother Z, but drop down in the comments if you want to see us look at a particular movie or a particular series. Might be fun. Why not?
I mean, definitely, because we've been trying to find good series these days. I mean, we haven't been finding much. But again, I think this definitely could take another episode.
I think so. I think
whole
there's
streaming
another pod that
purposes,
we're going to drop. But I just want to say, as we wrap up tonight on the Situation podcast, thank you to everyone that's subscribed. And to those people that have made a comment, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I think Brother Zooey might go for the final question you've got, and then we'll wrap it up.
Do you miss the olden days when you used to tell your mom, "I want to watch TV"?
Well, you know, those days you bring up my mother.
I didn't mean to, brother, but
it's a hard one. But for me, all I remember is, do I miss it? Maybe not that, but what I miss is how special those moments were. Whereas now, content is everywhere. You know, here we are, we're on YouTube. But back then, when I said, "Mum, can I watch TV?" particularly if it was something I wanted to watch, I really enjoyed it. So the short answer is I miss that quality and what it meant to me.
Thank you, Brother Antoine. Thank you guys for watching this episode, and hopefully we'll catch you soon.
Bye for now. That was official recording of the Situation Podcast.